Simmer down. That's very nice. You have excellent taste. I'm Johnny Carson, a Malibu resident of Martin Sheen's homeless compound. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain what happened. Martin Sheen, a fine actor, I don't know Martin at all, was made honorary mayor of Malibu, California. It's a strictly honorary title. His first pronouncement was he declared Malibu a nuclear-free zone and sanctuary for aliens and the homeless and wildlife, wild or tame. Well, I live in Malibu, and Malibu is for the homeless. I'll tell you, I didn't have a home when I had to move there. Mayor of Malibu, I guess the job didn't have enough stature to land Sonny Bono. Now, I don't really know what Sheen had in mind about that, but they're a little out of touch in Malibu. Their idea of the homeless is in Malibu is when your beach house is flooded while you're renting out your Bel Air house. They're homeless. But Malibu opened their hearts today to the homeless. Barbara Streisand lives in Malibu, offered to pay their valet parking at La Scala Malibu, which I thought was very nice. But every Malibu citizen, actor Larry Hagman, actually turned his electric fence down to simmer today. And later this week, Martin's setting up a tent city under Larry Hagman's hat, just for the homeless. Enough homeless jokes? I have one more. No, but I shouldn't. That's a problem, but I don't know what he had in mind. Where would the homeless go in Malibu? But the Malibu citizens are opening up their hearts to the poor. They just opened today a gazpacho kitchen and a croissant line. How did... No. Don't disappoint me and change the rhythm. How did he ever get to be mayor of Malibu? I didn't get to vote. I'm going to send in Jimmy Carter to recount the ballots. Well, let's see what else is happening today. Don't you look jazzy? Purple.
Check the back. Hello.
What is that on the back? Is that some kind of symbolic...
It's a work of art.
Well, la-di-da. Well, on television, NBC, folks, bad news, canceled the show Nightingales. Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw that show. I liked one of the quotes. Some actress said, well, it was a shame because I really never had the chance to explore my character. That's funny. Everybody else on that show explored their character. However, unless you think there's not some good news, a new program is in development called Einstein's Angels. It's about 4 women physicists whose tabletop fusion experiment gives off so much heat that they have to work in their underwear all the time. You know, there was almost a joke there. The Fox Television Network, which is the new network, is trying to announce a new drama session called Alien Nation. Premise is interesting. It's about a family from another planet trying to adjust to life in Los Angeles. But they're missing the real dramatic possibilities, which would be the life of a family living here on Earth, trying to adjust to living in Los Angeles. You're right. I hope all of you got your cards in the mail earlier today, because today is the Ayatollah Khomeini's 89th birthday. Yeah. I heard that his family bought him a big cake, and then they all got together and sat around and sang, For He's a Jolly Good Lunatic. Do you know what sweep weeks are in television? It's when they take the ratings. Obviously, it was last night, because I watched the show last night. A television movie about a guy stranded on a desert island with, how many of you saw it? With Raquel Welch. And not once did he ask for Bayer aspirin. How many of you saw that show? Really, I'm interested. Was that a turkey? She makes Vanna White look like Helen Hayes. Oh, boy, I want to tell you, what a stinkeroo. I mean, Jake, how are you? Oh, good lines. Anyway, we can get into that later. Can you imagine being stranded on a desert island with Raquel Welch? Everything was going well for this guy till Surgeon General Coop was washed ashore. And then worst thing I've ever seen. Next to Bridget Nielsen playing that lady in the spacesuit, a thing called Murder on the Moon. Boy, what depth of emotion. Van ought to get together with Raquel and Bridget and do the Bronte sisters. I mean, that would really... We should get that entertainment patrol going again. We had an entertainment patrol. We had badges, where you go on when you see a performance like that, you arrest them. And they're never allowed to work in the entertainment business again. Entertainment patrol, come here, Raquel. I'm getting steam, and I don't know why. Anyway, Gorbachev is in China. Have you seen that? And he's trying to sell the Chinese some Russian high-tech products. But the Chinese said they had no use for a stealth ox cart. And then Gorbachev tried to sell them some other high-tech products like, I didn't know they had this in Russia, a 14-day programmable toaster. You can actually program it 2 weeks ahead and the toast comes out. What else is happening? How many of you own a fax machine? You have a fax machine? Apparently people are having trouble because they are now getting junk mail, unsolicited stuff on their fax machine, which uses up your paper, right? Boy, just think of the frightening possibilities, knowing that Ed has your number. Or a Jehovah's Witness, and you get faxed all day. Anyway, tonight, Mr. Patrick Swayze is with me. We'll just be talking hunk to hunk. There was a scene in this thing last night where Raquel went swimming, took off her dress and left it, by the side of the lake. And I said, I'll bet you somebody steals that dress while she's in the water. The dog comes out and steals the dress. I'm naked. Gary Shandling is here tonight. Haven't seen Gary. Stay where you are. We'll be right back. Hello there.
Yes.
We're back here.
Oh, nice crowd. Great group.
They had one scene in this movie that was so bad. I shouldn't pick on Raquel. It wasn't her fault.
Why do you watch those movies?
It's like watching... Why do people watch train accidents?
Yeah.
Why do people slow down when they're driving along the freeway and they see an accident?
Yeah.
A morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
You just slow down.
Yeah.
And this would slow you down. And you say, I can't believe that. Anyway, so
What happened after the dog took her dress?
Let me tell you, this was hysterical. The dog took her dress.
Right.
She has to go back to the campfire where this guy is sitting. Fortunately, she found on the beach a packing crate, square packing crate. But the packing crate was constructed of boards. They were about 3/4 of an inch apart.
Right.
So she picks up the packing case.
Right.
And you can see through to here,
Right.
you can see through here, and you can see through there. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Just enough.
Yeah.
She has this
Yeah.
packing crate.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
It was...
And you watched the whole movie?
Yeah. It was, anyway. Let's see what we got here. Doc Severinsen is hosting the Hennessy Jazz Search Finals tonight at the Palace. The winners will appear at the Playboy Jazz Festival. Well, since we recorded earlier, and the show is seen when it's seen right now, which is not now, but it is now when you're home. You've already done this, right?
Not necessarily.
You have, in the time element that I'm talking to the folks at home, you've already posted this.
Who won?
How was it?
It's great.
Good, all right.
Actually, we're going to stall tonight.
He's going to what?
We're
Stall.
going to stall till after the announcement is made on the air here. Then we will do the program down there.
Okay, let's get to our piece of material, as we call it in the meeting. 5 spot.
5 spot.
Let's see. Do you know what the 1990 federal budget for this country is, for the United States government? $1.2 trillion. Now, when you hear million, you can kind of
Yeah.
equate to that. That's 1,000 million, right? Yeah, a billion's a thousand, and a billion's
billion is
a billion's 1,000
Yeah.
million. A million's, of course, is
Yeah.
10 100,000s. Well, a billion people can't comprehend. Let me give you some idea what a trillion is. The average lifespan for a man living in this country is only 38 million minutes. 38 million minutes. A billion takes light an hour and a half to travel 1 billion miles at 186,000 miles a second. Isn't this fascinating? Boy, I'm glad I'm here tonight. I could have watched another show, but I'm learning what a trillion is. There are only 171 trillion square yards of land on Earth. A trillion is 15 times the total number of human beings ever born. The sun is only 5.9 trillion inches away from Earth. Give us more. Give us more. Now, these are good examples, but they're rather scientific, but they lack a human dimension, right? Most people, you can't equate with what a billion or a trillion is. So we've come up with some. If you have anything to do, go ahead. I mean, just don't let me keep you. We've come up with some examples the average man can really relate to. That's the word.
In
I
other
wanted.
words, these are the snappers.
All right, for example, it took 1 trillion weeks for a single-celled protozoic slime to evolve into human beings. But it only took 3 weeks to evolve into lawyers. That's If you had 1 trillion rolls of twin-ply toilet paper in your apartment, you'd be the most popular man in all of Russia. 1 trillion is the number of times a day that a goofy kid in a paper hat says, "You want fries with that?" That's a trillion. It's the old clock on the wall has stopped. The clock stopped. Did you know that? Because I'm reading this. The clock just stopped. Actually, there is no such thing as time. You know, time in of itself as such does not exist.
Oh, really?
That's right. So this is taking really no time at all. Time's relative is a mathematical concept.
Yes.
There's
Can
enough-
laughs be timed? Can laughs be timed?
Not tonight.
Not tonight.
There is enough chicken in 1 trillion McNuggets to reconstruct 4 chickens. If you stood in the same spot for 1 trillion seconds, they'd build a DMV around you. And it's that one. If a man had this is interesting. If a man had 1 trillion pennies and he wanted half of them changed into $100 bills, he'd be standing in front of you at the bank on a Friday. The odds are 1 in 1 trillion. The United States Postal Service will never issue a 50-cent Tammy Baker commemorative. Interesting thing. If you lock 20 impressionists in a room, 20 impressionists, it would be 1 trillionth of a second before someone uttered the phrase, "You dirty rat." A trillion witnesses is exactly 1 trillion more witnesses than Morton Downey Jr. has.
Fred liked that
Thank
one.
you, Fred. Well, he seems to be a cult of one. A trillion hours is how long it would take Mel Tillis to phone in the alarm if a fire broke out at Peter Piper's Pickle Pepper packing plant. Let's see. You would have to lick the bumper of a 1957 Chevy for 1 trillion days to get a chrome fur ball. You got anything better? Yes. If you'd have made a martini that is 1 ounce of vermouth and 1 trillion ounces of gin, Ed would want another one in about 2 minutes. That's what a trillion. Raquel rubbed off on me. Shouldn't have watched that movie last night. It rubbed off on me. The Tonight Show will return after this message of interest, and let's hope it is. There, show business. Our choice. Okay. Haven't seen Gary Shandling for a while. I must have him come around here. He's a very funny guy, and as you know, is a star of his own syndicated series called Gary Sandling or Shandling. Gary changed his name when he went to Fox, didn't he, from Sandling to Sandling. A little known fact. Would you welcome Gary Shandling? Yes. Mispronounce your name, Gary Sandling.
Well, don't worry about it, Mr. Larson.
Yes, right.
It's been mispronounced about, 1 trillion times.
1 trillion times. I'll give you that piece of material in case you need a fill-in some night, you know, just when you're a little short.
I'll take that piece of material. I know you're trying to dump a sucker on me there,
That's
but
right.
I'll take that thing right now.
How you been? It's been a long time since you've been here.
Well, I miss not being here more. I've been real busy. I finished doing my show. Our show's on hiatus as of like a month ago.
Yeah.
So we stopped doing it because the batteries went dead. And our son runs
Low budget,
primarily
huh?
on D-cells. Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
I catch you. It's a very funny show.
Oh,
I know you have a lot to do with the
you know,
writing and so forth. And
Thanks. It's really hard work, and someone asked me the other day if the set really looks like my house, which it does, although I only have 2 cameras at my home. But, you know, I actually missed your monologue. I came in late, and I always stand right over there where I can see it, and I missed it, and I was thinking, when I grew up in Tucson, Arizona, this is absolutely true, when I was growing up and in high school and whatnot, we only got the last 45 minutes of The Tonight Show. Because the way, I guess it was fed to Tucson, and that's when the show was 90 minutes. And I never knew you did a monologue until I was like 20 years old. I just figured you started doing stand-up when you were 50. I had no clue. You know, when I was 20, and I figured, well, there's hope for me. I guess I can still take a shot.
if you can sit and talk without doing anything?
So I've just been taking a lot of time off, and I went to Washington.
Now, you got to tell me the story. I've heard a little bit about it, and I said, don't tell me anymore, because it's rather bizarre.
It's really one of the most phenomenal...
Mr. DeCordoba is holding up his hand.
We do this.
So we don't, because we don't want to interrupt the flow of this. Is that
Here
what you're
come
saying?
a trillion commercials.
That's right, 1 trillion commercials, which have laid end to end, and they should be, or whatever. So we'll do this, then we'll come back, because this is a fascinating, true
I have an amazing
story. What
story.
happened to him in Washington? Stay where you are. We're coming back. What a night. Now, tell them. Now, do the scenario of you in Washington.
So this is everything I'm about to say is totally true. I went to Washington about 2 weeks ago. Someone at the Washington Post called me and said, hey, would you like to go to this correspondence dinner, which I guess they have once a year, and all the journalists in Washington go to this banquet. There's about 3,000 people, and at this banquet, President Bush comes and does like 10 minutes of jokes.
Right.
So, you know, you may want to take a look at him for the show here.
Yeah.
So he said, so this guy at the Washington Post says, if you'd like to come and kind of get a feel of what Washington is about, we're fans of the show here, and we're just inviting you to come to this banquet. So I said, sure, and I flew in, and I said, can I get a tour of the White House, which they have tours there, and anybody can really go. It's much like Graceland. And so I go to, so he says, well, we'll arrange a tour for you at the White House. So This is absolutely true. So now I go to the White House. It's Saturday morning. I'm in line at the White House, the tour line. I'm in the liberal line, and which is the line that has to pay to get into the White House. It was the shortest line, so I got right in. So I'm now taking a tour of the White House, and it's great. There's a Secret Service man showing us. I was with my girlfriend. I have a girlfriend now, which. Yeah, there's usually a smattering of applause, much like when they caught the Night Stalker. You know, people are going, "Thank goodness he's off the streets." So for a while, so we're in line. So now we're looking at the Oval Office, and we're looking around because the president isn't there. And then the Secret Service man says, "You know, the president is on his way down, and if you stand against the wall in the hallway, you may get a glimpse of him as he's walking in." So I said, "Well, this will be great." So we stand against the wall, and we're watching, you know, and sure enough, the president walks in with Mrs. Bush and the dog, who I think has something to do with running the country, quite frankly, and because the dog goes everywhere with the president, and there's the president, and I'm standing there. And he just sees me, and he walks up to me, and he says, "Gary." And, you know, right away I'm thinking, who did I vote for? Who did I vote for? Who did I vote for? Lie, do whatever you have to do. So he says, "Gary, I've seen the show. I'm a fan. You're on he says, "You're on like an entertainment network or something, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, yes, sir. They try and keep the public from me." And I said, "Yes, Mr. President." I actually said Mr. President, and I had never in my life said Mr. followed by another non-specific title in my life. I was lucky I didn't lose it altogether and just call him Mr. Belvedere, you know. So I'm standing and I'm talking to the President of the United States, and he says, so what are you doing in town?" I said, "Well, I'm here to go to the correspondence dinner tonight." And he says, "Well, I'm going to that. We should do something together."
Serious? This is for real. For real
I said, "Absolutely." I said, "Say what?" He says, "No, they want me to do 10 minutes of comedy. This way we could divide it up. I could do 5 and you could do 5. I go, "Oh, no. No, sir. I can't. You don't want me." I got very nervous. I said, No. I can't do that. You know, I thought he was just joking anyway because I'd really never taken him seriously before. So he says, So he says, "Where are you staying?" I'm talking. I go, "Well, I mentioned the hotel." Now, as I say the hotel, suddenly all the Secret Service men pull memo pads out of their pockets. And he says, "Well, I'll give you a call." I said, Right. He says, "It's been nice talking to you, and I'll call you later, and we'll discuss this." And I said, "Well, thank you, Mr. President. It's a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for your time." And then I turned and picked my girlfriend up off the floor. Now, we go back to the hotel, you know, and I've just met the president, had this wonderful tour of the White House, saw everything. The tour itself was great. I got to see the bowling lane. There's actually, well, there's one bowling lane, so it's pretty much, you know, hell on league nights. But, all right. So now we go back to have lunch at the hotel, and the following argument ensues at lunch in the coffee shop of our hotel. I'm saying the president is not going to call. She's going, "He is going to call. I have a feeling he's going to call." No, the president's not going to call. Now, you know, the people at the other table are going, "Look at these two morons wondering if the president's going to call." Check my messages after lunch, and sure enough, the White House is called. All right, we okay with this so far? I can go really fast and just say goodnight. You let me know. So, you know, our mind is blown as it is. You know, what started out as a tour is turning basically into a Twilight Zone episode. So now I get this message to call the White House. So I call the White House and speak to the president's aide, all right? And he says, "Hi, Gary." He says, "The president's all excited about this thing." I said, "You're not spiking the president's punch, are you?" And he says, "No, sir, I'm not." So, you know, this guy was a riot.
Yeah, so, no sense of humor.
Oh, you know. So he says, now, the president has this great idea. You know, he says, you know, about 3 weeks ago, the president pulled some tourists out of line and introduced them to the puppies. It was some people from Maine who were just visiting. So he said, the president has this great idea. He'll just come up and say he pulled you out of line, pulled out some average, normal American citizen out of line just to see what they have to say about the presidency. And it'll be a surprise to everyone. I said, this is how he found Dan Quayle, isn't it? Absolutely all true. This is all true. I actually said this, and you know, I was jotting everything down as I was saying it because I figured, hey, maybe I can make a buck off this. So, no, it's unbelievable. So he says, can you come right back to the White House? So now we get in a cab and go back to the White House at 2 in the afternoon, and I'm nervous. And then I started to think, wait a minute, we own the White House. I mean, it's basically a rental. The president comes in, he uses it for like, you know, 4 years, can't change it that much, and then has to give it back. It's a rental.
Right.
Nixon actually didn't get his cleaning deposit back. Because they said he didn't give him 30 days notice. That's right. So, thank you.
Good.
So now,
I'll wait for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for not interrupting.
You got
by
it.
the way. I really
No.
So, this is no different than when I tell my friends this story, and they just sit there, and then pretty much I never hear from them again. Yeah. So I appreciate it a lot. So, listen to this, Johnny. We go to the White House.
Yeah.
Which is, by the way, and don't get me wrong, it's not as nice as your place. So, we go, and now we go upstairs into the White House.
The private residence?
The private residence of the White House, which is mind-blowing, and the president's sitting in his den. He says, come on in, come on in. And we spend about an hour and a half discussing jokes. Maybe it's only me that's frightened that he has nothing better to do than to discuss jokes. And he's, you know, he is literally the warmest, most down-to-earth guy, and it was like, seriously, he's like this terrific guy. He is. This is not. I'm not like kissing up because I know he's watching or anything. So he was the sweetest guy, very down-to-earth. There was no tension. There was, you know, and we discussed jokes, and then he said, let me show you around. Took me into his, I think it was the bedroom where they have the original Gettysburg Address signed by Lincoln there, and he said, look at this. You know, there's lots of stuff like this around here. So I said, so and he showed us around. It was great. I did the show. He introduced me as this average, normal guy, and surprised all the press corps. He said, you got to keep this a secret. Did like 5 minutes of material. And I was really, the show went great, and I couldn't go to sleep that night. I was so excited, and went to sleep probably at 3 in the morning. And I put a do not disturb on my phone at the hotel so that I wouldn't be woken up in the morning. And at 7 o'clock, the phone rings, and I'm ready to, you know, ream out the telephone operator because I'm sleeping, and I go, hello, and she goes, it's the president calling.
True?
Absolutely true. I said, well, I'm sleeping. Tell him to call Gorbachev and call me back. It's only 1 o'clock in the morning in Russia. I'm sure he'll get a kick out of waking him up. And he said, thanks, and it was just this unbelievable experience. I was wired for like 2 more. The next day, I went and did a show at the Space Museum. They didn't even ask me. I just went over there and did a show for the Sky.
You were writing. Hi. That's a great story.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
Good story. 20 seconds.
So it's a lesson. I just got to get out of the house more.
Oh, yeah.
That's a great one.
We'll be right back. Good. White House, huh? Okay. My next guest, you all know he's one of the most popular and talented actors working. His latest movie is called Roadhouse. It opens Friday the 19th. Would you welcome Patrick Swayze? Well,
You know, I can't believe they're still howling for me.
That's right. Your stuff was so good. Well, I suppose you've been hanging out with the president, too, huh?
No.
No.
Actually, I hadn't had the opportunity, but I was busy. I was shooting.
Your bowling night. It couldn't go. Good to see you again. We'll get to your picture in a while. You mentioned, I think, when you were here one time, as a kid, you were a movie buff. Really? I mean, you grew up watching movies and picked out who were the people that you would always go to see?
I guess Bogart, Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn, Gene Kelly.
It's not a bad list.
I think Errol Flynn,
Yeah.
but I think because I've always loved those adventure or pirate movie stuff, and but I think Tarzan was my biggest. I watched him.
Which Tarzan, though? There were a couple of Tarzans. You don't go back to
Johnny Weissmuller. He's
Johnny
the only Tarzan.
Freddie goes back to the original Tarzan, Elmo Lincoln. I'm serious. Wasn't a Lincoln.
Beautiful body.
Elmo Lincoln was the original Tarzan. Did you know that? But that
No,
goes way back to silent films.
My grandmother was supposed to have done some high dive in those movies, you know.
You're kidding.
Yeah, but when I figured out why she looked so ugly, I figured that's when I quit high diving. Her sinus cavities caved in from high diving for so long.
I didn't know that. And I think that's the first time on this show, to my knowledge, that anybody's has told a story about their sinus cavities caving in from high diving. But you learn something every week. Did you emulate? Did you do impressions of kids, of Bogart and those kind of people in front of the mirror?
Mostly Tarzan. I mean, you do the light the match with the hat thing on with Bogart, but most.
Did you do the Tarzan? Carol Burnett used to do on her show all the time the Tarzan yell. Mm-hmm. Can you do that?
I used to, but
Let's see.
no.
Come on. That's not bad. Hey, what are you talking about? Folks, we're talking show business, folks. That's not bad.
Johnny Weissmuller was like really up there, like somebody was swinging on his rope.
Yeah, I don't. I don't know if Johnny Weissmuller actually did that yell. Freddie? I'm serious.
Really?
Did Weissmuller actually do that yell, or was that? He did, sir. I didn't know that.
I knew that.
We see you knew that.
No, but my little brother and I used to play Tarzan when we get to stay home from school and act like we were sick.
Yeah.
We played Tarzan around because we had ropes, you know, in the woods and stuff.
You'd swing on the
we
vine?
swing and one day I got a little cocky. I was on a second-story roof and I dove off to grab this branch and missed. But we were in these in these red satin speed suits that we cut down the crotch to make look like loincloths, you know. And red satin doesn't quite work for Tarzan.
It might nowadays. You know. Yeah, might nowadays. I would probably think anything else. We'll be right back. Stay where you are. Somebody told me you used to write songs.
I still do.
You still do?
Yeah, I did one Dirty Dancing. I've got 2 songs in Roadhouse and 1 in Next of Kin.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are you
Still
are
writing.
you make money at it? I mean, as a songwriter?
Well, I did off She's Like the Wind. Whoa.
Yeah.
I didn't.
What are some of the earliest ones that you wrote that didn't make it?
Well, I wrote songs about Brenda and Susie and Carol.
Yeah.
I wrote one called, I don't know. I wrote one called Sweet June Farts.
That's a proper last name, F-A-R-T-Z. June Farts. I knew her well.
It was cute. It went up just sitting here, sipping at my beer, cutting them sweet June farts. Well, it's one of those kind when the sun don't shine, it seems to spread the clouds apart. When you man, I better shut up. Yeah, I'm out of here.
I'm only sorry Irving Berlin is not watching tonight. I mean, well, that's was that published?
No. That was buried.
Yeah.
I can't believe I remembered it.
Now, Roadhouse is out. I know basically it's physical. It's an action picture, right? You play a bouncer, or you instruct new bouncers in this place?
I get their bouncer system together, and I wind up coming. It's exactly like a modern Western. You know, I come to town to just do my job in this one bar with chicken wire around the stage, and I grew up with that stuff.
Did you?
And
Were you ever a bouncer at all any time?
No, I had my share of
Fights?
Yeah, because, you know, I was going to bring some pictures tonight, but Lisa thought better of it.
Why's that?
Well, there's this one picture I was going to, you know, because, like, I was going to bring something different, and there's this picture of me in a loincloth and leaves all over it, you know.
With the
no.
red
not
satin
with
in
the,
it?
Oh, with the red satin, no. With leaves. And,
I mean, it's a picture we couldn't show for a family-oriented show like ours?
well, it would have made sense why I got beat up so much when I was little.
I see. So, did you ever get in a bar fight?
Yeah, I never picked a fight.
Yeah.
Because my mother and father taught me that if I ever pick a fight, that I'm in big-time trouble, but if I ever didn't finish one, I was in big-time trouble.
Yeah.
And
Are you good at it? I mean, if you had to...
I wouldn't say that, because there are a lot of people better, you know? I mean, you don't say you're good. I had a lot of trouble.
What happens to you when you go out? Now, you've got the image now. I imagine if you go out, you're always going to get some guy who's got a couple of beakers of stuff.
Well, number one, I don't go out
Yeah.
anymore like that. But, you know, when I was starting out, you know, to get my career going, I did Tough Guys, and that
Yeah.
caused me lots of problems. And guys, you know, Mr. Movie Star, what, you know, and then after North and South, you know, romantic character that men and women apparently identified with, I didn't have so much trouble. But also, I don't believe in traveling bodyguards, because I think they attract trouble. And
I think you're
travel
right.
with my dog, a 120-pound Rhodesian Ridgeback.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
But it's great. It's great because, you know, the first reaction is people go, "Oh, look, doggy," and
120-pound dog.
and immediately they're coming up and being nice. You know, nice to meet you. But there's this one. I was doing research for this one character, so, you know, I was hanging out in some sleazy places, and this one place I was hanging out at, you know, because I believe animals are very, very smart and can sense you, because I gave him no signal, and I didn't train him to do this, but he was laying at my feet in this bar that I was researching researching. And so this guy started coming up, and I could sense him like 50 feet away coming up, that he was up to no good. And so he came up and said, "What are you doing in a bar with a dog, Mr. Movie Star?" and started this whole thing. And so I just said, "Oh, just hanging, you know." And he said, "I'm gonna pet your dog." And Cody, I'd never seen him do this. He just went, and just when the guy went, "Hey, okay."
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah. And so we went on, you know, talking and running off the mouth for a little while, and so
Should
he
be less
started.
mouse head from now on. Let's get a dog when we go out. Hey, we got a film clip. We better get to it, right? So we don't
Okay.
get too far behind. Does this need a setup? Is this in the bar? What?
Yeah, it's an emergency room. I've just been messed up in doing my job, and there's this.
Okay.
The hottest looking doctor I've ever seen sewing me up.
Watch the monitor from Roadhouse. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Stay here. That's a doctor? That woman is a doctor? Let's have time to thank you both for being here. Randy Swayze, of course, appearing in Roadhouse, and Gary appearing at the White House. Thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. I'm humbled by that applause.